1,600 followers. Back at you with a boring video about rod bearings and maybe getting this thing running again. I got my oil pump rebuilt. It's very nice. Maybe I'll actually have oil pressure this time. That would be a plus. Rod bearings, most people don't even talk about them because they kind of suck, and it's like everyone's biggest fear is installing them or them going out. But we're going to be installing those today, and I'll show you how I use Plasti gauge to do it. I'm sure some expert's going to come in here and say I'm doing it wrong, but it worked last time, so it'll work this time. Hopefully someone can get something out of this video because I had no idea how to use Plasti gauge when I first built this engine. So I'll get right to it and show you guys some of these new parts and the parts I got from FCP. Okay, so I got the oil pump together, new rotor and shaft, and I just went ahead and tack welded the nut to the sprocket. I know people are cringing right now, but it works great. So, and what is it? Oh, a headlight. Thank you, FCP. I don't know why you sent me this, but you sent me this instead of the retainer ring for my oil pump, which I'm sure it has a lot more value, so I appreciate it. I'm not really even mad about it. So, Glyco rod bearings. That's what this is like an OE brand or whatever. I think it's what comes in the engines from factory. And this is what I had last time. Only had to buy one pack, and they all passed perfect. So obviously, I'm going to buy the same brand again. So hopefully it passes. And then you want to use the green Plasti gauge for the correct clearance range. And ARP lubricant, because on ARP hardware, you're supposed to use that lubricant on the threads so you don't pull them or whatever. Luckily with the ARP rod bolts, you can reuse them. Stock rod bolts, you cannot. They stretch. And then obviously the best oil filter you can buy. So hopefully this will catch whatever metal's left or whatever metal I cause. Hopefully no more. All right, so I don't have great video quality since I'm under the car and it's dark, but this is real life. So I just did cylinder 1 and it checked out perfect. I kind of went ahead and did that off camera so that I made sure I remembered what I was still doing on how to do these and I don't tell you guys wrong. And it checked out fine. I have my readings from when I built this motor last year and it matched and it was within tolerance, so that's awesome. I'll go ahead and just show as much of this process as I can. I'm going to go ahead and remove the bearing. You want to clean all the oil off for when you test the Plasti gauge. And then once you test your Plasti gauge, you'll clean it off and then you'll go ahead and do assembly lube. That's what's up here, but you can barely see it. So I'll go ahead and show you guys. It's kind of hard for me to video. I don't have my gimbal right now, it's dead. So I won't be able to show the entire process, but hopefully give you guys an idea. So just a tip here, since your rod cap has a dowel pin on both sides, once you take your rod bolts out, it's gonna be an absolute nightmare to get apart. So obviously when you install an engine, you really never wanna use a hammer. And if you do, it needs to be like a mallet type. So if you leave one of your rod bolts in a little bit, just barely tap on it, as you can see it's separated. Without doing that, it's an absolute nightmare to get this cap off. Just a little tip there that I've learned from some other YouTuber. So I have the rod bearing in there, flush on both of these ledges here. And I just lay the Plasti gauge side to side like this. Other people would do it differently, but the most common way that I've noticed online and stuff is this way, and it worked for me last time. Sorry if that's wrong. So I'll install this cap, and you have to be careful doing it because you can smear this. You want to try to install it on there as straight as you can. And then these little measurements here all over this thing. There's 3 or 4 measurements on there. And that is how you check your clearance once this smashes. So it's pretty straightforward, just takes a while. And if you're using ARPs, you want to go ahead and put your installation lubricant on it now. And then you may have to add a little bit more when you do the final install, but possibly not. The Plasti gauge is in there right now. It's torqued to 45 foot-pounds. So now I want to go ahead and remove it again and then get my measurement. All right, so the Plasti gauge is smeared, which is supposed to be what it looks like. And as you can see here, it's about .0015, and that's what the last one was, and that's what I had last time on all 6, and it was good. So we're gonna go ahead and install this one for good, put some assembly lube on it, torque it down. A lot better reading on the crank side here, which you can check that instead if you would like. Oh, it's so hard to record and do this. And like I said earlier, .0015 is what I had on the cap, and I'm getting about the same reading on the journal. You don't have to check both, but this was a lot clearer compared to the actual cap. That one's done. So cylinder 1 and 2 are done. I'm going to go ahead and take off the windage tray and do the other 4 cylinders. I'm not going to record any of that because, well, no one wants to see any of that, and I'm ready to get this thing back together and see if I have oil pressure. All the rod bearings checked out perfect. I'll go ahead and show all the rod bearings that I pulled out. I'm going to go ahead and get the oil pump installed and try to start this thing. All the rod bearings are out. As you can see, cylinder 5 took the hardest hit. The rest aren't too bad. Cylinder 3 kind of took a hit, but cylinder 6 just didn't need oil. I guess cylinder 6 doesn't need oil pressure. I don't know what's up with that, but they look almost brand new, so that's amazing. So all my rod bearings checked out. They're all installed. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of the car together, start it, so I can drive to work tomorrow. Everything's back together, and I have oil in it. Now's the moment of truth. Does it have oil pressure? I haven't done anything yet, so you guys are gonna see this with me. All right, the gauge is a hack job down here. I don't think we can see it. In neutral. Not sure why the battery light's all of a sudden on. That's kind of weird. Better than the oil light. I let it run for a couple seconds there, as you guys just watched, and oil pressure took a couple seconds because the engine was completely dry, but it got up to where it should be in time because it had to fill up the oil filter housing. It wasn't no 20-second wait or 8 PSI, so we're good there. That's awesome. No rod knock. That's also awesome. But the reason the battery light was on was because I guess you need a serpentine belt. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that put on here, and I'm gonna drive this thing tomorrow. I don't know how long this video is gonna be, but thanks a lot, guys. This evening was pretty hectic here trying to get this thing together just because it's gonna be nice tomorrow, and I just wanna get it out on the road and try to enjoy it, especially now that it has oil pressure. Thanks for watching, guys.